Alright, guys, so we have some interesting DCU updates. Really more of just a pulse check of where a lot of things stand. James Gunn explaining some stuff. So let's jump right into it. So he did an interview with Rolling Stone. So we're just going to go through some of the more interesting questions and answers that I read here. So the interviewer asks, Supergirl, which is out next year, is wrapping principal photography. How much were you on the set? 0. Very little. I mean, at the very beginning, but I've been pretty busy, as you might imagine. I was really involved at the script stage, but then director Craig Gillespie has just been such a great partner. He's been doing his thing. You never know how something gets together, but right now it looks amazing. It's really cool stuff. Okay, not exactly super big news, right? Guy who's making a movie says it's good. But this is the real interesting question. That's no longer called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, correct? And then James Gunn pauses. I think it's just called Supergirl. So, not the wackiest thing in the world, right? But it does seem like James Gunn is very loosey-goosey with his titles. Like, he announced Superman as Superman Legacy, and then he decided to just call it Superman. Then he announced Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and now it looks like it's just going to be called Supergirl. Personally, it doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. The title of the movie doesn't actually matter all that much. But yeah, I am looking forward to that Supergirl movie because the Woman of Tomorrow comic book that it's based off of is quite good. And I think it should make for an interesting movie. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? Let's see, what else? Skipping a lot of it. So the interview asked him here, on a story level, what cracked Superman for you? And then he had this to say. Well, I'm skipping to a specific part. Bringing all those elements into a Superman movie in a way that hasn't happened, not to mention that he exists in a world where superheroes or some form of metahumans have existed for 300 years. It's just a different thing. So I do like that interesting little tidbit there. So in the DCU, it says that metahumans will have existed for 300 years. So, yeah, I mean, we are stepping into a DCU with, like, just a vast history of superheroes, of superpowered beings. Which I think is an interesting take, right? Because we very much did the MCU where, in a lot of ways, when you watch that first Iron Man movie, I mean, it feels relatively grounded, right? Like, it feels relatively like Iron Man creating this suit of armor is like a really big thing. If you look at the Spider-Man movies, it's like there's not really any, and there aren't any other superheroes running around. Same goes for the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. Like, that was very grounded. Matt Reeves trilogy, grounded. So I do think it's an interesting thing to do. Oh, Man of Steel also very much felt the same way, right? Like, it very much felt like Superman existing in this world was like an incredibly novel thing. I think it'll be interesting. James Gunn is going to have to make Superman feel special and extraordinary in a fantastical world. That is the one thing that I think he'll struggle with, but we'll see how he does it. So somebody else, or the interviewer asked him, Eddie Murphy once told me that nearly every bad movie happens because of Hollywood's habit of setting a production date before they have a finished screenplay. And then he had this to say. Yeah, totally. Listen, you can do everything right and make a bad movie. I'm really compassionate towards people that put their all into a movie. I know some people that were my former workers at Marvel, so he's talking some smack about Marvel. Although, he's more so talking smack about the higher-ups at Marvel, sympathizing with the creatives. But he says, people who made some of the worst movies. There were people that were lazy and didn't put their time in. Okay, no, he is talking smack on some of the people. And then there were other directors that worked really hard and maybe didn't have the best movie come out. But they did everything they could. But I do believe that the reason why the movie industry is dying is not because of people not wanting to see movies. It's not because of home screens getting so good. The number one reason is because people are making movies without a finished screenplay. So yeah, I mean, this is the real important part, right? Is that, I mean, this is something that I've been saying on the channel for a long time. I love the fact that James Gunn is only making movies with finished screenplays. Should not be a special thing that he's doing. But that is the state of Hollywood. That is a special thing. And that's one of the biggest rules you've made for DC, the interviewer asked them, that they have to have finished scripts. Yeah, we just killed the project. Everybody wanted to make the movie. It was greenlit, ready to go. The screenplay wasn't ready. And I couldn't do a movie where the screenplay's not good. So, oh, and then he says, and we've been really lucky so far because Supergirl's script was so good off the bat, and then Lanterns came in and the script was so effing good. Clayface, same thing, so effing good. So we have these scripts that we've been really lucky with, or wise in our choices, or whatever the combination is. So that, like, this just, again, I've said all this before, but I'm just saying it again. This is what I love about James Gunn's approach, right? People are going like, wait, so you're starting with a Superman movie, that makes sense, but then you're making a Supergirl movie? That's what you're following it up with? And then Clayface? These seem like weird movies to make in order to jumpstart the DC universe. But I love that James Gunn, he's not trying to have this like master plan of, oh, we need to have a Batman movie, and then we need to strategically place a Superman movie, then we need to strategically place Wonder Woman, and then strategically place Aquaman and The Flash in order to try to play 3D chess or 4D chess in order to make the DC universe succeed. It's like, no. We're making Supergirl because Anna Nugora turned in a fantastic script. That's why we're making it. We're making Clayface because what's the guy's name? Matt Flanagan. He turned in an amazing script. We never were even thinking of making a Clayface movie, but Mike Flanagan gave us a fantastic script, so we're gonna make it. Like that's great. That's what I want. like that. It really does boil down to this. At the end of the day, what I want out of Hollywood is, I just want passionate artists making art that they feel passionate about. That's it. That's all I can ask for. Sometimes it'll be good, sometimes it'll be bad, but if an artist is passionately making something, it's going to go through in a way that doesn't feel like art that feels corporate and soulless, right? You know, like, maybe you dislike The Last of Us Season 2. I'll take that any day of the week over the Book of Boba Fett. You know what I mean? Like, this just, like, complete boondoggle, or, I don't know, something like, I'm just trying to think of something soulless. I don't know. Moon Knight, right? These movies that are clearly either not being made with passion, or movies that are like put on deadlines that are like, oh, we got to get a movie out, so hey, you shit out a Moon Knight series real quick for us to make. Like, James Gunn is just doing it right? Like, actually, is going to be the next thing here in the article. Okay, I think we'll get to it later. But it's also the fact that he's not scared to delay movies, right? Like, he'll delay Brave and the Bold until we're not going to make it until we get the script right. He's not just going to he mentioned that he ended up scrapping a project because the script wasn't good. That's good. I would assume that they're talking about Sergeant Rock, only because that's the only other movie that has been in production, that has been reportedly in production, or in pre-production. So I would assume that they're scrapping Sergeant Rock. But yeah, that's good. Don't make it just because you need content, because there's a mandate. Only make it if it's good. Like, that's all I can ask for, really, at the end of the day. So anyway, the interviewer asks him this here. What were some of the things that you felt you needed to explain to make this Superman work? There are things that I know I don't explain that I don't even want to say out loud, but I wanted Superman to be vulnerable. I see the online things, who would beat whom, Homelander or Superman or effing whatever, Adam Warlock or Brightburn, and I'm like, this is the effing stupidest effing conversation. Like, so then whoever would win this fight means that they're the best, because I'll just go out and write Godman, who can destroy you with a wink. And I win. I win all the fights forever. But I don't want a Superman who could punch planets. And also, we're creating a whole universe now. So what's a girl with wings going to do in the face of that? So he's a little less powerful. Guy Gardner's pretty fucking powerful. They're all pretty powerful. Honestly, in talking to people, a lot of people are like, I like Batman better because he can actually be beat. And I get that. So we have a Superman that can be beat. I like hearing this. I mean, look, I do think that Superman should be significantly more powerful than Hawkgirl, and Guy Gardner, but I still want him to be able to be beat, right? I like that in, My Adventures with Superman, which is the recent cartoon that's been coming out, like, there are giant robots that get built and they can just beat Superman. I like that the villain with that shoots out electricity is able to like fight Superman. And it's fine. Because I do think that having an all-powerful guy is just much less interesting. Okay. Somebody says, there are people who, or not somebody, the interviewer asks, there are people who've been saying the whole future of the studio might be riding on this movie. How do you work in the face of that kind of pressure? Really, I just go, that's their business, because that's not the truth for me. My truth is this is the first movie out of DC Studios. Other people may say it's got to be a home run, nothing else. I'm like, no, I'd be very happy with a double. Fucking Iron Man wasn't the be-all and end-all. It wasn't Avatar. We are doing something that's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the puzzle itself. We have Peacemaker, we have Supergirl, and what we want to do is make a movie that people love. They feel connected to the characters. It's just this one movie. It's not everything. I hate it when there's a fucking article and it's going on about all the problems and blah, 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 blah. I think I got all the blahs. And that means even more pressure on James Gunn and Superman. I'm like, guys, I'm not responsible for all that. I'm responsible for my piece of the pie. I've got to make my budget back. I'll be very happy with that. So I think that's the attitude that they should be having, because the reality is that the DCEU was in very dire straits. Right? Like, The Flash was a bomb. Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods was a bomb. Blue Beetle was a bomb. Aquaman, I actually think, made like $400-something million, which isn't a bomb, but also not great. Like, when the DCEU was in such dire straits, I don't think that one Superman movie, no matter how good it is going to all of a sudden come out and make $1 billion. I think that they should be satisfied if they hit 500. I think they should be satisfied with that. The important thing is what James Gunn said. The movie has to be great. People have to love Superman. I say the same thing about Marvel, right? Marvel is in the shitter right now. Unless it's a stupid cameo fest movie like Deadpool and Wolverine or Spider-Man No Way Home or Avengers Doomsday, audiences just don't seem to care. So I think they should look at Thunderbolts and go, okay, this isn't great, but people like the movie. Making good movies is the only way we're going to be able to get the superhero genre back to where it was. Right? Like, Thunderbolts was great, was a great movie. Fantastic Four has to be great. And then both Avengers movies also have to be great, which can then set the MCU for future success. For the DCU, they got to slowly build up if they want to, reach the heights of what the MCU used to be, right? Like, Superman has to be great. And then Peacemaker Season 2 has to be great. And then Supergirl has to be great. And then Lanterns has to be great. And they have to get a reputation to get audiences invested in these characters and these stories and the overall universe. But just expecting it all to happen all at once, I don't think is feasible, and I don't think they should be expecting that. So it's good to see that James Gunn has a bigger head on his shoulders. I think the bigger question is, what does David Zaslav or whatever feel? I don't know about that. The interviewer asks, over at Marvel, they've been pretty open about the fact that they realize what's going wrong over the past few years. They put out too much stuff. James Gunn says, and longtime Marvel executive producer Luis Desposito said that privately to me. I don't even know if it's really their fault. The interviewer asks, they were under a corporate mandate. Yeah. James Gunn says, that wasn't fair, it wasn't right, and it killed them. Then James Gunn says, watching that, especially after being involved, are there lessons to be taken on your end? James Gunn says, there's no doubt. We have to treat every project as if we're lucky. We don't have the mandate to have a certain amount of movies and TV shows every year. So we're going to put out everything that we think is of the highest quality. We're obviously going to do some good things and some not so good things. But hopefully, on average, everything will be as high quality as possible. Nothing goes before there's a screenplay that I personally am happy with. So, I mean, yeah, it speaks to what we've been saying, right? For people that don't know, like, there was a literal mandate that the Disney Corporation put on both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm, where they were like, you guys need to put out a certain number of movies and a certain number of Disney Plus shows every year. And so that's the real reason why I personally think, most of the Disney Plus shows are ass. They're like these 6-episode limited event series, and they're just terrible. And that's also why I think a lot of the movies were ass, is because, like, both Lucasfilm and Marvel, it didn't matter if the script was good. It didn't matter if they maybe should have done some more reshoots or some more rewrites. They had to get it out. So we'll see what happens with Ironheart, but I think that the real proof is going to be in the pudding for Marvel. I would say starting with Fantastic Four. I believe that Ironheart is a part of like the old content that was made under that paradigm. So if that's bad, I'm not going to care too much. But I think starting with Fantastic Four, I think that's the starting point of, all right, you guys said you were going to fix your shit. Let us see Fantastic Four. If Fantastic Four just feels like the same old post-Endgame Marvel, then I think we need to start having serious conversations of, does Kevin Feige still have it? But yeah, but either way, it's great. It's really great to hear that James Gunn is totally willing to delay projects, not start shooting on something, cancel stuff if the scripts aren't good, because that's what you got to do. You must ensure quality so that your overarching brand recognition is that of quality. All right, then the interviewer asks him, sitting on the table here is a Superman/Spider-Man crossover comic book from the 70s. At some point, it feels like it's going to happen in the movies, doesn't it? Maybe it's 10 years from now. James Gunn says, we've talked about it a billion times. That could easily happen, but simultaneous to that, I think it would be interesting. But I also think people are a little over it. I think people want to see good stories with their superheroes, and that's what matters. And they want to see different types of stories with their superheroes. And people love superheroes. That's obvious, but they need more variety, and they need just more quality storytelling. And just having Spider-Man and Superman team up isn't going to do it if it's shit. So it's got to come from a real place, and it's really hard to make that work. I did Superman because I love the character, and I was excited about writing that movie. If I were to write a Superman versus Spider-Man movie, Superman v Spider-Man, Dawn of Justice, get it? Let's make it. Is it a concept I'm going to be like, oh yeah, this could be a great film? Or am I doing it because, oh yeah, people want to see Superman and Spider-Man team up? For me, it would have to be, if we ever did that, it would have to be under someone who thought it was going to be awesome and wasn't just a cash grab, because I'm just not into that. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think that's another really good point, right? Don't just make movies because you think it's going to make money. Because while I think stuff like that has like short-term success, right? Obviously, No Way Home made $1 billion. Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion. But just making something like crossover stuff and cameo porn for short-term gain, I don't think that then leads to over people being invested in your universe. Because people watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but it didn't make them excited about the MCU, right? It wasn't like a fantastic movie or anything like that. So that didn't then make people want to go watch Thunderbolts. Whereas if, Deadpool and Wolverine was as good as something like Captain America Civil War, right, which is a fantastic movie where, that, expanded the overall universe, that then transitioned into Black Panther and made people excited about Black Panther, made people want to watch Black Panther. I mean, not that Not that Deadpool and Wolverine like had like Captain America, Anthony Mackie Captain America, or any of the Thunderbolts in it. So it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I do think that if something like Deadpool and Wolverine was a cameo porn movie, but also told a great story and also made people interested in the overall MCU, that type of movie can draw people in with the cameo porn and then also make people interested and excited to watch Captain America. And then it could have made people excited to watch the Thunderbolts, but it just wasn't all that great. So people came for Deadpool and Wolverine, but they didn't really want to stick around. And so that's the thing, right? If you have a great idea for a Marvel versus DC crossover movie, then sure, make it. But don't just make it to make it. Because it's short-term gain versus long-term investment. Are those are terms that I think I'm using them right? Okay, then the interviewer asks him this. You once said that the fact that Robert Pattinson's Batman is not in this universe was Matt Reeves' choice. Does that mean if it were up to you, you would have just pulled that into your universe? James Gunn says, it would be a consideration. We'd have to think about it. It is not like we've never discussed it. The interviewer says, it's interesting. Your answer is much more present tense than I expected, as if it's an ongoing possibility. James Gunn says, no, I don't. Batman's my biggest issue in all of DC right now, personally. And I'm not writing Batman, but I am working with the writer of Batman and trying to get it right. Because he's incredibly important to DC, as is Wonder Woman. So outside of the stuff that I'm doing and the projects that are actively going, our two priorities are finishing our Wonder Woman and our Batman scripts. The Batman script, is that still called The Brave and the Bold? Right now, yeah, right now. In the broadest sense, what needs to be figured out to make those two properties work? Batman in this universe? Batman has to have a reason for existing, right? So Batman can't just be, oh, we're making a Batman movie because Batman's the biggest character in all of Warner Brothers, which he is, but because there's a need for him in the DCU, and a need that he's not exactly the same as Matt's Batman, but yet he's not a campy Batman. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in a funny, campy Batman, really. So we're dealing with that. I think I have a way in, by the way. I think I really know what it's. I just am dealing with the writer to make sure that we can make it a reality. And then the writer asks, and how about for Wonder Woman? Similar. Wonder Woman, I think, is actually easier for me because they haven't been so many infinite portrayals of Wonder Woman, definitely not in movies, but really anywhere, that there have been of Batman. Every single Batman story has been told. It seems like half the comics that have come out of DC over the past 30 years have Batman in them. He's the most famous superhero in the world and the most popular superhero in the world. People love him because he's interesting, but also having so much of him out there can also make him boring. So how do you create that property that's fun to watch? And then the guy says, I really should clear this up. Is there still a non-zero chance that Matt Reeves' Batman will get sucked into your universe? I would never say zero, because you just never know. But it's not likely. It's not likely at all. I'll say Batman Part 2 is not canceled. That's the other thing I hear all the time. The Batman Part 2 is canceled. It's not canceled. We don't have a script. Matt's slow. Let him take his time. Let him do what he's doing. God, people are mean. Let him do his thing, man. Okay, so that was a lot, but I figured I should just read all of that. That's the current status of Batman. I mean, it's James Gunn, as of when I'm recording this, is June 19th, 2025. He is still saying that Matt Reeves' Batman, not canceled. It's not likely, right? He's saying never say never, but he's really saying that as of right now, the plan is absolutely not to have the Robert Pattinson Batman be the DCU Batman, and that they're working on a separate Batman movie. Gotta hydrate. Yeah, I mean, look, I respect a lot of what he's saying there, that it's probably hard to make a Batman movie in general, right? To try to find a unique foothold and a unique take on it, while also having to make a Batman that feels significantly different from the Matt Reeves Batman, which you plan to have concurrently going at the same time. Personally, I think that the way you do it, and by the way, I do also like that he says that he doesn't want to make it campy, because that would be an initial urge, I would assume, is to maybe make a funny Batman, a more lighthearted Batman that's set in the DCU. But I think that the obvious way that you make it different from Matt Reeves is to just make it fantastical, right? He's in the DCU. So have your DCU Batman fighting Killer Croc, where Killer Croc is a 10-foot tall crocodile monster. Whereas if Matt Reeves were to ever make Killer Croc, it would just be like a guy with a skin condition. It would just be a really muscular guy with a skin condition. Have Bane be like a big, Venom Bane. Raw Bane. Because if Matt Reeves ever does Bane, it'll be like how Nolan did Bane, where he was just a guy with asthma. So I personally think that it can work. But I'm sure it's a challenge, right? I'm sure it's really hard to write. So we're going to have to wait and see what he does there. He also very much reassures us that Matt Reeves is still working on the Batman Part 2. I mean, a lot of people are worried about that. The other rumor is, of course, that Matt Reeves is not just slow, which, to be clear, there is precedent for him being slow, because people forget that the Batman was announced in like 2017, or at least it was announced that Matt Reeves was going to be directing a Batman movie in 2017. And then the Batman ended up coming out in, I believe, 2022, right? Was it 2022? I think it was. So it's like, it still took them like 5 years to make the first Batman movie. Now, obviously, he had to deal with COVID and whatnot, but still. Like, I do think that it is probably true that Matt Reeves is just kind of slow. But there are also the reports that Matt Reeves is going through some kind of personal issue right now, whether it be a health issue, whether it be a family issue. We don't know. We don't necessarily need to know. So, a lot of people are thinking that the Matt Reeves Batman Part 2 is getting scrapped, and that, whether it be that Robert Pattinson is going to come into the DCU, or that Robert Pattinson's Batman is just no longer going to be a thing, and they're just going to do the DCU Batman. Obviously, I love Matt Reeves' Batman. I would be heartbroken if we didn't get more from that universe, but I mean, I would understand. But I think you can do both. I think there is a way to do both. I think you have Matt Reeves stay strictly grounded, and then you have the DCU Batman lean way more into the fantastical, right? Have us fight Mxyzptlk or whatever the fuck, who's Batmite, right? No, Mr. Mxyzptlk is Superman, and then Batman is a separate character? I don't remember. And yeah, and have cameos in it, right? Have Guy Gardner show up and do like the iconic scene where I think, or does he do that to Hal Jordan? I remember watching an animated movie where I think like Green Lantern meets Batman. He's like, "Oh, you're just a guy. You don't have superpowers." And then Batman like sneakily like slips his ring from his finger and just knocks him out. It was really cool. Do something like that. Have cameos, have it be fantastical. I think you can do it. All right, so that's it for the Rolling Stone article. It was also officially confirmed that this guy called Tom Harries, he's going to be playing Clayface. I don't know anything about this man. He seems like a nice fella. I'm sure he'll be good, but I don't really have anything else to say about it. Oh, Jesus. Oh, actually, the other thing that I wanted to say about this whole situation is, I got the hiccups. There was another guy that played him in Creature Commandos. What's his face? He's a really good actor. I'm forgetting his name. Let me look it up. Alan Tudyk. James Gunn had said that people who play characters in animation and in video games were also going to play them in live action and vice versa. So we're already breaking that rule. To be fair, he did also preface at the time that we would do it when we can. So, I mean, but at the same time, I feel like Alan Tudyk's career isn't that busy. I feel like he would have wanted to play Clayface in a live action movie. But also, if you look at the actor, I mean, this might be like an origin story for Clayface. So it might be a story that takes place before Creature Commandos. So maybe Alan Tudyk would just be too old for Clayface, but I don't know. I feel like we're already playing loosey-goosey with that rule. I would have at least wanted it to have taken a few movies before we couldn't have the same actor playing them in animation and live action. But anywho, James Gunn also confirmed something else about the Mattverse, the Reevesverse, and the DCU. Somebody asked him, "Hey James, is there any kind of agreement between you and Matt Reeves where you can't use the same Batman villains?" James Gunn said no. But then he did say, "But both the Crime Saga and DCU are part of DC Studios, so we of course take everything into account, but there's no diehard rule." So I think this makes sense. Like, maybe they both wouldn't want to use the Riddler or something like that. But I think, like I mentioned before, like if Matt Reeves were to use Clayface, it wouldn't be like the Clay Monster Clayface. It would be, I don't know, like the version of Clayface that just puts on like different masks or something. Because I remember there was when Clayface was originally introduced, he didn't have powers. He was just a serial killer. But like if they both use the Riddler, that might feel a little samey. Or maybe not. Maybe like the Riddler that would be in the DCU would be the whole like, "Oh, I'm the Riddler. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Riddler, riddle me this, Batman." But yeah, I think they could use the same villains and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, so we'll end with this. So someone said, James, please be aware, James, of this disgusting behavior. So sick and tired of this rubbish. He linked this like Snyder, I don't know, insane deranged people Reddit post where they were like, "Stand up and fight for Snyderverse on July 11th. Fight for our Snyderverse on the imposter Superman release day. Here's what we can do to make a difference. Post spoilers everywhere. People are less likely to see or enjoy the movie if it's already spoiled. Leave bad rating on review sites. We know for sure Gunn bots will post fake positive reviews, so we must let people know the truth and balance the bias out with realistic scores." I like that they're like, don't watch the movie, but also lie about the movie, because the fake or the positive reviews are definitely fake, but our lies, because we haven't seen the movie, so we can't possibly write reviews, ours are going to be the truth. I really love the logic there. Number 3, reserve tickets online, but don't complete the purchase by selecting and reserving tickets. It gets taken out of the pool for a period of time, which means this has a chance of stopping Gunbots from buying tickets. Gunn fired the first shot and killed the Snyderverse, and here is our chance to take the fight back to him. Restore the Snyderverse. If we can't have our Superman, no one can. So, I mean, look, this is obviously completely deranged behavior. And I will say this. Look, I'm going to be honest. I think most Snyder fans are totally fine. I think if you want to be a hater, that's fine. If you want your entire personality to be about the Snyderverse, that's your prerogative. If you want to shit on, the James Gunn online, I mean, they'll get into the defamatory stuff where you try to like imply that he's a PDF file or whatever. But if you just want to talk about how Superman looks like shit, if you want to talk about how David Cornsweet can't act, if you want to talk about how the CGI looks bad, how the cinematography is bad, honestly, all that's fine. I mean, that's whatever. But this stuff, but when you're talking about like brigading, like, Rotten Tomatoes, like doing weird stuff like reserving theater seats, but then not actually buying them to try to mess with the ticket sales, it's like that stuff is really cringe. That stuff is like actually deranged, and I mean, like don't do that. Don't try to get in the way of other people enjoying things, right? Don't try to mess with the statistics that people use to make purchasing decisions. Like that's where it starts going too far. And James Gunn, he had a little reaction to it. He said, "LOL, I think we'll survive. I'm not sure the 8 people that listen to that guy, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess it's not a guy, are going to impact the course of events." So, honestly, I'll be honest. This is one of those like bottom dweller things that like I don't think that James Gunn as the CEO of DC Studios should even be like trying to respond to stuff like this. Like I don't think you should be giving stuff like this oxygen. But you know, he is the terminally online CEO. Which hey, it gives us content to talk about, but just strategically, I don't know if it's the best idea. But anyways, that's all I have today. There's a whole bunch of stuff, DCU stuff, and I figured I'd put it all into one video. So, what am I going to title this? I don't know, but hopefully you made it till the end. If you did, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, giving me your thoughts. If you're a Snyderverse fan, leave me an essay telling me why I should, I don't know, end my life. Okay, bye.